Are you ready?
Starting now?
Oh, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And we actually, it's no longer just Mike and I as it was last week. We actually have a guest on with us again. If you've been following us on Instagram, you probably know who it is. His name is Tim. I'll let him introduce himself here in a minute. But yeah, we actually have a full slate of guests for the entire month of October. So our calendar is packed, as they say, right, Mike?
Exactly. Something's packed.
Right. Exactly. We're going to leave that one alone for the moment. So
yeah.
All right. So Tim, go ahead and introduce yourself if you want to. Even to start off, give your sobriety date. We'll start off with that. If you want to say where you're from or anything like that, that's cool. But let's at least get the introductions out of the way. Okay.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for letting me come on here and share with your audience. And my name is Tim Lodgen. I'm born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. 46 years old, and my sobriety date is March 5th. 2021. I just celebrated 19 months. 2 days ago? Today's the 7th? Yeah, 2 days ago, after 27 years.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, and you're welcome. And thank you for, obviously reaching out to us and, agreeing to come on. We've been having guests now for a couple of months, so it's a newish thing for us, but, and I know Mike will agree too. We've had some fun, so far.
Yep.
A couple of episodes, that we've done in between that where it's just been him and I, but God, what was it? I think it was the first 23 or 24 episodes that we did of this thing. We're just the two of us yipping and yapping, and then people started contacting us and saying, hey, we'd kind of like to be on. And we're like, that might be interesting. So yeah, we had to get better software. We were just recording through Anchor before, so that wasn't real good for having people on. But once again, thank you. We appreciate you coming on. And Mike, you want to give him kind of a brief rundown of what our, and I'm going to first air quote of the day, format is.
Well, basically, we don't give a shit about getting loaded because we know how to do that. We also know how to ruin our lives and ruin the lives of everyone around us. We're interested in the solution. Clearly, the big book talks about, tell them what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. And we're more interested in what it's like now. Certainly feel free to qualify a bit. Because we want to make sure you're one of us, but other than that, man, we want to know what you're doing today to stay sober, basically.
No, that's awesome, man. I usually go through my whole story, and I only talk about a little bit about how I stay sober and what do I do in recovery. So this is perfect. I'll touch on a little bit. So to tell you my qualifications, because it's pretty good.
But, most of us are.
Yeah, so I'll start, I grew up in a normal family, no drugs or alcohol in my house. My father was a police officer. My mother actually was a professional bodybuilder. So there was nothing in my house. There was no liquor in the cabinets, no drugs around. I was never around it as a child. I played multiple sports throughout my life. And I actually was a very, very good skateboarder here in Baltimore, Maryland. I was sponsored by a bunch of local companies. I grew up with Brandon Novak from Jackass, and
Really?
I skated with him almost every single day, and I got to skate with Bucky Lasik a couple times, and so that was pretty cool. And then middle school, I became a junior Olympic and Golden Glove boxing champion. So again, no drugs, no alcohol. I got into high school, and my ninth grade year, I went to a party, and that was the first time I tried alcohol, and I got completely sick. I was thrown up the next day, the whole hangover, and my mom knew I drank, but she didn't punish me. She said, "Your whole weekend's ruined, and that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be your punishment. Hope you don't do it again." And honestly, I didn't touch alcohol again until my senior year. My summer before senior year, I signed up for United States Marine Corps. So when senior year came around, I figured, you know what, I'm going to have some fun this year and go to some parties and just, pretty much get it out of my system because when at the end of the year, shit's going to hit the fan and it's going to get real. So my
Mm-hmm.
senior year, I started going to parties, started drinking. And for me, once I started drinking, I was the guy that was, what else is at this party? Because I want to try it.
Right.
And I started smoking pot, started doing LSD, started eating mushrooms, painkillers, started smoking PCP. Thank God there was no heroin or cocaine around at that time because I definitely would have
Mm-hmm.
done it. I was
Sure.
just, as soon as I got alcohol in my system, it didn't matter what was there. I was doing it. And, at the end of the school year, I went into the Marine Corps and the drugs did stop. The
Mm-hmm.
drugs 100% stopped. But once I graduated boot camp, and I got stationed at Camp Geiger for my SOI training. When we got done at 4 o'clock, we went to the bars and the strip clubs,
I was gonna
and
say, yeah, I've never heard. Yeah, Marines tend to drink a little bit.
just a little bit. And it's the bars and strip clubs around the base. Their motto was, if you're old enough to take a bullet for the country, you're old enough to have a cold beer. So
Mm-hmm.
at 18, 19, 20 years old, they served us no problems.
Right.
And we would see our sergeants at these same bars, late 20,
Mm-hmm.
early 30-year-old men, and they would just simply say, make sure your ass is up at 3:30, make sure you're at formation at 4 and ready to go running at 4:30. Don't get in trouble, don't get locked up, and make sure your ass is up. So there was no deterrent as young men to not drink. It
Mm-hmm.
was almost a badge of honor to see how much could you drink and still get up at 3:30 and still go run 5 miles.
Right.
And we would throw up during the run, but we just as long as we finished it,
Right.
that was it. So it kind of was that's how it was for the next 2.5 years for me. I did 2.5 out of 4. The last 6 months of my enlistment, we actually went to Somalia for 6 months, and this was after the war. But I got to see the ramifications of what war did to a third world country and its people,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw a lot of things over there that really fucked me up, to be honest with you. When I got back, I didn't think it really messed me up, but my drinking got worse. And I ended up falling in a hole running to the head one night and broke my ankle. And it was so severely broken that they said, look, you have to get surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't want surgery. I didn't trust the Navy doctors. I'm like, I'm not getting surgery. They're like, well, you have to change your MOS because I was 0311 infantry. And they said, you can't continue to do your MOS with your ankle like that. And I said, well, I don't want to change MOS. This is what I signed up for. I want to be in the infantry. If I can't be in the infantry, then I don't want to be in the Marines anymore. And they said, okay, well, we'll give you honorable discharge and send you on your way. And that was my career in the Marine Corps, 2.5 years.
All right.
When I got home, the first month was awesome. I didn't have to get up at 3:30. I didn't have to go running. I didn't have to shave. I didn't have my hair cut. I didn't have to wear a uniform. First month was great. The second month, I kind of got that, oh shit, I got to get a job. I got to get a vehicle. I got to start paying my mom some rent because I moved back into my mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
The third month came and I got severely depressed. I stopped showering. I stopped shaving. I didn't want to leave my bedroom. I was drinking every day, and I started smoking pot and taking painkillers again because now I don't have any drug tests to pass.
Right.
And I found myself in my bedroom one day, just lost. I'm like, what's my purpose? I'm not. I'm no longer in the military. I don't have a damn job. I don't have a vehicle. I'm a piece of shit. I'm living in my mom's house, and I go in my stepfather's armoire one day, and I grab his gun and I sit it on my lap, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm contemplating using it. Luckily, at that time, I had the right mind to call my girlfriend, and I said, hey, I'm sitting here staring at a gun. I don't know what I'm doing. She came over to my house within 5 minutes and took the gun from me. I told my mother that night when she came home, Mom, there's something wrong. I'm not me. Something's going on. I didn't tell her I had my stepfather's gun in my lap. She would have flipped
Right.
out and
Right.
had me committed. But what she did do was make some appointments to the doctors, and I got in there. They diagnosed me with bipolar 1 manic depressive disorder. And this is 1995. PTSD was not a thing that it is today. You know, I know the government knew that basically when you get discharged, they give you your papers and say, here's the number to the local VA, contact them yourself, have a good day, take care. That's it.
Right.
Right.
So when I came home, I went to the doctors, they diagnosed me, and the first thing that they wanted to do was put me on medicine.
Sure.
Now, I want to. The reason I say that is, if you are suffering from a mental illness and the doctors want to put you on medicine, be honest with them. I was not honest. I was drinking and drugging, and the medicines that they were putting me on were not working. And this shit went on from the age of 21 all the way up to the age of 44 till I went into rehab. I would go on medicine, off medicine, up dosages. They would change the cocktails, but nothing would ever seem to work because I was using drugs and drinking. So it didn't
Right.
matter
Sure.
what cocktails they put me on. The shit was not going to work. So if you are getting put on medicine, please be honest with them, because it's a long, long road of me thinking I was crazy, thinking, well, you know, what the hell is wrong with me and why isn't the medicines working? When the truth of the matter is, I was drinking and drugging. And I didn't want to admit that that was the problem.
That sounds relatively familiar to the two of us.
Yeah,
Yes, it does.
there's no way that's the problem. You know, that can't
Right.
be the problem.
Right.
Right.
It's got to be the medicine. So, I met my wife. We had our first kid, our second kid, and I was doing okay as far as jobs go. I wouldn't keep a job longer than 6 months. I just between the mental illness and my drugging and drinking, I would just lose jobs, man. Like it was like that was my job, to lose jobs. And by the time I got to 32, I literally have gone through like 37 employments from the age of 21 to 32. Damn. And my wife was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can't hold a job. I'm missing something. Like I just don't have any self-confidence, any self-worth." And she's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "I really miss sports. I really miss competing. I really miss how that made me feel." And she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, I want to do mixed martial arts. I said, I miss competing. I miss, you know, combat sports." And she said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 1 year. If you can get in there, get training and get some fights and make some money at this, then you can do that. After 1 year, if you're not making any money, you got to let it go and you got to go get a job. We have 2 kids to support." I'm
Right.
like, okay. So I went and started training. Within 6 months, I had my first fight. And that 1 year turned into 3 years of me fighting up and down the East Coast, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Baltimore, Virginia. And I wasn't making that much money. I was making $1,500 a fight because they were all local fights. But I had self-confidence back. I felt like I was doing something with my life. And I have to be honest, there's no drug or drink that I've ever put in my body that compared to that euphoria of coming out of the locker room with the lights going on and the music and the people screaming and it's a packed house. That feeling of coming out feeling like fucking Superman is never been unmatched. It's one of the craziest, coolest feelings I've ever experienced. And when that cage locks behind you, and you're looking at that guy, and you're like, "Okay, motherfucker, this is it. Like it's you or me. We got 15 minutes in here together. We'll see what happens." That feeling is unreal. So 35. I'm on my last fight, and I'm putting a guy in a rear naked choke, and I feel something pop in my shoulder, and I'm like, "Oh shit." The fight ends. I go back into the locker room, and I can't lift my arm, and the trainer had to put my shirt on me. And when I go out to the auditorium, and my wife's there, and 30 of my friends are there, she hands me a beer, and I go to grab it with my left hand, and she's like, "Why didn't you grab it with your right hand?" I'm like, I can't lift my arm. And she's like, "You got to be shitting me." I was like, "No." She's like, "Okay, you're done." She's like, "That's it." She's like,
Right.
"We'll go to the doctors and see what happens." So That next week, I go to the doctors, and I tore my labrum in 3 places. I had to have emergency rotator cuff surgery. That started a 4.5 year addiction to opioids prescribed to me from
Mm-hmm.
my doctor.
Right.
And on top of that, I was drinking 12 to 18 beers a day. So my doctor's
Right.
giving me started out with hydrocodones. I'd go back after 30, 60 days, and he'd ask me how I was feeling. Oh, I'm still hurting. Okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
let's put you on Percocets, and we'll up the dosage to 10 milligrams. Go back after 30, 60 days. How you feeling? I don't know, Doc. I'm still in pain. Okay, well, we're just gonna put you on some OxyContin 20 milligrams. That should do the trick. So I was on OxyContin 20 milligrams, and like every good addict, I wasn't taking one every 4 hours. I was taking 2 to 3 every 4 hours,
Mm-hmm.
finishing my prescription 2 weeks before the doctor had to refill it, and had to call my
Right.
friends to get the shit off the streets to hold me over till my doctor filled my script. And I found myself one day in my bedroom, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I'm scared. I'm like, man, I'm taking 8 to 10, 20 milligram oxys. I'm drinking 12 to 18 beers a day. I'm gonna fucking die one night when I go to sleep. I was like,
Yep.
this
Right.
this is
Yep.
this is how people die. And my addiction steps in, my mental illness steps in and says, well, if you're gonna die, you might as well do it your damn self. And I reached over on my armoire, and I opened up my pill bottle, and I poured them in my hand. I had 18 oxycontins. I took all 18 of them, and I went into the living room, and I cracked open a 12-pack of beer, and I guzzled all 12 of them within 45 minutes.
Damn.
And I go into my bedroom, and I lay on my bed, and I said, please, God, don't let me wake up, because I don't want to live this way anymore, and I just want the pain to stop. I don't know
Right.
how to make it stop. And I pass out. And I wake up the next morning, and I don't know why. And I go into the bathroom, and I have my refill there on the counter, and I open it up, and I dump all 30 of them into the toilet. And I remember telling myself, I don't care how bad this gets. I'm never taking pain pills again. And for the next 10 days, I was probably the sickest I think I've ever been in my entire life.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just the whole gambit of coming off the opioids after 4 years.
Yep.
And after those 10 days, I'm still lost. I still don't know what I'm going to do. I'm unemployed. And I decided, you know what, I need to go take a ride and clear my head, and try to figure this shit out, because I was able to stop the pain pills, but I'm still drinking, and I'm still smoking pot. And
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to kind of just clear my head. So I get in my truck, and I'm driving through this park, and I'm banging on the steering wheel, and I'm crying, and I'm yelling up at the sky. What the hell? Why did I live? What's your plan for me? Because to be honest with you, I had no faith that there was something called a higher power, or God,
Mm-hmm.
or anything. Because to me, if there was something out there that loved me and created me, why would He let me suffer so bad? So I've really had no faith at that point. I'm driving through this park, and I get to this tree where my senior year of high school, my best friend lost control of his vehicle and hit the tree, and unfortunately lost his life at the age of 18. And I get out of my truck, and I go up to the tree, and I'm like, Bill, I need a sign, man. Like, I'm alone. I'm lost. I don't know why I'm here. I just need to know that there's something else out there besides me, because I really don't know my purpose in life. I'm lost, man. I love you. Can you please just send me a sign? And I get in my truck, and I go to leave the park. And as I'm leaving, I'm crying, and I'm fucking snotting everywhere, and I can't see. So I pull over to the side of the road, but I don't pull over on the right hand side the way I'm supposed to be leaving. I pull over on oncoming traffic and park my truck. And about 10 minutes goes by, and this car pulls up, and we're hood to hood, because I'm on the opposite side of the road. And I see this man get out of his vehicle, and he opens the back door, and he gets his dog. He's about to go walk over by the park, and walk his dog. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, that guy looks familiar. I'm like, holy shit. That was my best friend. It was his father. And I hadn't seen him since December 27th, 1996. This
Hmm.
is March 16th, 2017, 21 years later. And I get out of my truck, and I say, Mr. Bill, is that you? And he looks at me and goes, Timmy, what's wrong? And I fall to the curb, and I'm crying. I'm like, I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing. I have no purpose in life. And he comes over to him, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. And he says, Tim, I'm not supposed to be here this morning. I'm supposed to be in North Carolina at a family reunion trip. I was supposed to leave at 6 a.m. this morning. My bags are packed in my truck. My wife came to me in a dream last night and told me to come walk my dog this morning at 10 a.m. And I said, Mr. Bill, I just stopped at Billy's tree and asked him for a sign that I wasn't alone, that something else was out there. And we hugged, and he said, I think I was here to see you. And I said, yes, sir. And I leave the park, and I got about 10 minutes to where I'm like, oh, cool. Everything's going to be all right. I'm being watched over. I'm being protected. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm good to go. And my mental illness and addiction steps in and says, you know what? You are good to go. Everything is going to be all right. Nothing's going to happen to you. So you don't have to stop drinking because you're being protected.
Right.
Because it's cunning and baffling, and it tells
Right.
us shit that we don't want to hear. And
Yep.
and we listen to it. So for the next 4 years, from 2017 to 2021, I drank the most alcohol I've ever drank in my entire life. Beer wasn't enough. I I had a smart idea of switching over to Fireball whiskey because I figured, that would be a better option because 12 and 18 beers, that's a lot to drink to get where I wanted to be.
Right. Oh yeah.
But I could drink some whiskey and shoot some of those miniatures down, and within 5 or 6, I'm feeling all right. It gave me that warm blanket feeling that the pain pills used to give me. So I'd start out with 4 or 5 of them and still pick up my 12-pack, and then I finally threw the beer to the side. And in the mornings, I'd get up and go to work, and I'd stop at the liquor store, and I'd get a sleeve of miniatures, and that's 10 of them. And
Yep.
I'd drink all 10 of them by 1 o'clock. I'd finish my shift at 3:30, stop right at the liquor store and get 10 more on my ride home to work. Ride home. And I'd get home and finish all 10 of them by 8 o'clock, 8:30 sometimes. And if I was feeling really good, I'd get back in my truck and go get 10 more.
Right.
And it's funny because I never bought a big bottle. And my addiction told me, don't buy a big bottle because then you would know exactly how much liquor you're drinking throughout the day. You would be accountable. You would know exactly. But those little miniatures, man, you can drink them and throw them out your window while you're driving. You can hide them in your sock drawer, your medicine cabinet. You can hide them anywhere. And the good thing is the wife wouldn't find them, and she wouldn't know exactly how much you were drinking.
Right. Yeah.
So, I get to the end of, right before I get into rehab, I get a brand new truck, and I'm driving to the liquor store to pick up my miniatures. I'm coming home, and I hit something. And I still to this day have no idea what I hit. I don't know if it was a parked car, a street sign, a concrete barrier. I have no idea. But I walk in the front door, and I'm like, I just wrecked my truck. I'm going to sleep. And I go to sleep, and I wake up the next day like every good alcoholic. Hey, good morning, babe. How you doing? I'm going to go to the grocery store and pick up some milk and bread. Do you need anything for breakfast? And she just looks at me and says, how are you going to do that? And I say, in my brand new truck in the driveway.
Right.
She's like, go outside and look at your truck. And I go outside, and my side passenger mirror is completely missing off the truck, and my front passenger right tire is up underneath of my bumper. I literally don't know how I drove it home. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and she looks out the window, and she says, you have no idea what you hit, do you? I said, no. She said, Tim, you could have killed yourself or somebody last night. You can't stay here anymore. You have to leave and go figure this out. But I don't want you here with the girls anymore. Enough's enough. You got to go figure this out. So I called AAA. They put my spare tire on. I said, fuck the side view mirror. I don't need it. And I called my buddy. I'm like, hey man, let me come over to your house for a couple of days. Let shit blow over. In a couple of days she'll forget about this and let me back in. Just let it blow over. And he's like, sure, buddy, come on over. So I go to his house, and he's like, well, your wife just kicked you out, and got nothing else to do, man. We might as well go to the bar. And I'm like, you know what? That's a hell of an idea because now I got a reason to drink because my wife just kicked me out, man.
More justification.
I have a justified reason to go to the bar, absolutely. So I go to the bar, I get shit-faced. And less than 12 hours later, as I'm leaving a bar with my buddy, I rear-end a car at a fucking red light. And I get out and I look at the guy. Well, it was a truck, sorry. I get out and I look at the guy, and he had a tow hitch on his truck, so his truck actually was fine. But the front of my bumper was all V'd in, and I'm like, "Are you okay, man?" He said, "Yep." I said, your truck's okay. You're okay. I'm out of here. I slapped him on his back and I took off.
Right.
I knew I was going to jail. I was drunk. And I get back to my buddy's house and I'm like, dude, I got to go be by myself. I can't stay here. So I leave his house, stop at the liquor store, get myself 10 more miniatures. And I go and park at a park and ride where people park for the day and jump on a train and go to work or whatever. And I turn my phone off. I'm like, I don't want to hear nobody's shit. I want to be by myself. I want to drink and pass out and not worry about the world. And turn my radio on and listen to sad ass music for 48 hours. and did the whole, I'm a piece of shit. My kids deserve a better father. My wife deserves a better husband. My parents deserve a better son. You know, all the disappointments I've went through, all the arguments I've caused, all the blackout nights I don't remember, just everything that I've done. And the whole woe was me, like pity party bullshit.
Yeah, right. Poor me.
Yep. And after 48 hours, I turned my phone on. It's 7 after 10 in the morning, March 5th, 2021. And I turn it on. 2 minutes later, the phone rings. And I look down and it says Westchester, Pennsylvania. And my first thought is it's a scam because I get them damn calls all day long.
Right.
Right.
But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. And I pick it up. And I'm like, hello. And it's Brandon Novak. And he's like, Lodgen, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And I'm like, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm drunk, and I'm tired. And he says, good, motherfucker, that's what you need. He's like, I just got off the phone with your wife and your mom. I have a plane ticket set for you this evening, and I got you in the Banyan Treatment Centers down West Palm Beach, Florida. I want you to get on that plane and go down there and get the help you need to save your life. And I kind of was like, okay, man, yep, okay. I was just agreeing with him to hang up the phone, so I didn't have to hear what he had to say.
Right.
Yeah, and I hung up the phone, and 10 minutes later, my wife calls, and she's like, hey, I got off the phone, Brandon. Please come home, take a shower, pack your bags, eat something, and take a nap, because I had about 3 hours for the plane left. And I'm like, okay. So I go home, I take a shower, pack my bags. I couldn't eat, and I couldn't sleep, because now I'm having a full-on panic attack. My anxiety's through the roof. My mind's racing, and I'm thinking about, wow, how in the hell did I get my life to where I got to go to Florida to go to rehab?
Right.
How long am I going for? 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months? I don't know how long I'm going.
Yeah, now time matters, right?
Right. And my mind's racing, and I'm like, man, I can't fucking do this. I can't go to rehab, and I'm sitting on my bed, and my addiction and my mental illness steps in one last time, and it says, take my hand, come with me. And it walks me to the basement of my home, and I throw a rope around my neck, and I stand up on a bucket. And about 2 minutes goes by, and my wife realizes I'm not in my bedroom anymore. And she comes down to the basement, and she sees me in the corner of my basement with a rope around my neck, standing on a bucket, hysterically crying. She says, what are you doing? I said, I can't do it. I just want the pain to stop. I can't do it. And she looks at me and she says, Tim, do you know what this will do to your little girls?
Right.
Please get down and get on that plane. Get down. Everything is going to be okay if you get on that plane. And 30 seconds go by, and I take the rope from around my neck, and I fall to the floor, and I'm crying. And I go upstairs, and I call Brandon. I'm like, hey, man, I got to go. If I don't go, my addiction is going to kill me. And I can't do that to my family. I got to go. And all he says is, I'm proud of you. I love you. Call me when you pass security, because I want to make sure your ass isn't getting on a cab and leaving the airport.
Right.
So my mom drops me off. I get to the airport, and I call him. And he says, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're about to get back everything that you've ever lost times 10. And he just simply hangs up. As I go to sit down at this chair, waiting for them to call me to board the plane, as I sit down in this seat at the airport, I get this overwhelming feeling that comes over my entire body. It was a warm blanket feeling like drugs and alcohol used to give me. And at that exact moment when this feeling comes over my body, my worry, my pain, my panic, my anxiety, my fear, all leaves my body. And I hear this calming woman's voice in my head, and she simply says, everything is going to be okay. Something happened to me at that airport. When I got on the airport, I was no longer anxious. I wasn't worried. I was ready to get off that airport and start rehab and start a new chapter in my life. I truly believe I had a spiritual experience at that airport, and I had a mind shift.
Right.
When I got to the rehab, I didn't miss any meetings. I went to extra meetings for military veterans and first responders. I started working out with a personal trainer Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I completely changed my diet. And one of the biggest things I think that's helped me is I found faith in rehab. Um, there was this guy that would walk around every day, and he was reading this book, and he wouldn't talk to nobody. He wouldn't, just he kept to himself. And one day I said, "Hey, excuse me." I said, "What are you reading?" Because he literally walked his sandals into nothing. 4 miles a day he walked around the perimeter of the rehab,
Hmm.
and he said, "Oh, I'm reading the Bible." I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." He goes, "Yeah, it keeps me grounded." He goes, "But I don't push it on anybody else because, everybody has their own way of healing." He said, For me, this helps me." He said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "Every morning before our first meeting starts at 9 a.m., I have a morning meeting before the meeting." He said, "And I simply just read a word for the day. It could be honesty or hope or forgiveness, or it's a random word out of the book." He said, "And I read a daily reflection." He said, "And then I say a simple prayer for the day." He said, "Would you like to join me tomorrow morning?" I said, "You know what? I'm willing to do anything and everything to change my life. I will be there." And I show up the next morning, and he looks at me and he says, "Thank you for coming. You're the first person that told me you would show up and actually came." And the word he read that day was hope. And it was so powerful. The reading that he read about hope hit me because I was hopeless. I was in a dark place. And when I gave up hope, it nearly cost me my life. And
Right.
I didn't miss any other day. Every morning I was at that meeting, and his time came to leave, and I still had 2 weeks left in rehab. And we had about 15 people at this morning meeting. And he said, "I want this book to stay because, we grew from 5 people to 15. And I really would like this book to stay. And I really want to choose somebody to read this book every morning because it's been helping everybody." And he looks at me and he's like, "Tim, I want you to read the book every morning." And I said, "What?" I said, "Why'd you choose me?" He said, "I didn't choose you." He said, "He chose you. I'm just the messenger, man." He's like, and he hands me the book. And for the next 2 weeks, I did the morning meeting. And at the end of my 2 weeks, it became Easter. And I go outside of my little apartment because the place we stayed at was an old Holiday Inn that they turned into a rehab. So I come out of my room, and I have my book, and I go outside to go underneath the pavilion to read my morning meeting. And there's 54 people standing outside waiting to hear my message. And the counselors go over and they walk over to me. They're like, "You can't have this out here." And I'm like, "What do you mean? They're all waiting for it." They're like, "No, we're going to put it in uh, uh, in council room A because it's so big." And they open up council room A, and 55 people go in there and sit down, and four counselors come in, and we had an hour long reading, and we had a lady sing some beautiful songs, and one of the counselors was a preacher. He read something from the Bible, and it was just a beautiful thing. And when I was done, the counselor came up to me and she said, "Tim, I've been here for 20 years." She said, "That was probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." She said, "You have something about you when you speak. People listen. I think you should do something with it when you get out here." And I'm just like, "Yeah, no, I'm just reading the book that the man left me. I didn't do nothing special." She said, "No, I think you should share your story. I think people need to hear what you have to say." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds pretty cool." And I didn't think nothing of it. I really didn't. I come home and I found my home group. I did 98 and 90, started working the steps, started working living the traditions. I got a sponsor, and I really engulfed myself in my home group, and doing things after the home group, like going to breakfast and going to dinners with people from the home group and listening to their stories. People with a lot more time than me,
Sure.
and that really seemed to help me. It really seemed to ground me. And about 3 months in, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do a podcast just for shits and giggles because I think it's pretty cool. I've been listening to podcasts and watching people and listening to their
Mm-hmm.
stories, and so I messaged one. I said, hey, would you mind me sharing? I only got 3 months sober, 3.5 months sober, but I would like to share because I also think it's very important for not only the people who have long-term sobriety, but I really do believe that people with short-term sobriety have something to give to the meetings as well. It's a fresh outlook. I know a lot of meetings they tell you to sit down and shut up and keep your ears open, but
Mm-hmm.
they really do. But for me, some of those new guys, they bring a new perspective, and they also allow the older people with long term to kind of remember where they came from. They keep it fresh, and
Right.
so it was knocking doors down with Jason and Mikey. They contacted me back, and he said, "Yeah, man, come on." So I go on and I do the podcast, not thinking anything of it. 2 weeks later, it airs. 4 days after it airs, I'm sitting in my truck picking up a kitchen table to go take to Brandon Novak's rehab house. He's got a couple of them in Delaware.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there waiting for the garage to open so I can load up my pickup truck, and the phone rings. And he's like, is this Tim? And I'm like, yeah, who's this? He's like, this is Tony. I'm like, brother, I don't know no Tonys, man. I'm sorry. And he's like, no, man. He said, this is Prophet. I served with you in the Marine Corps in 1994 to 96.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, whoa, dude. I was like, how you doing? How'd you get my number? He's like, I got off of Facebook. I hope you don't mind if I called you. And I'm like, no, man, what's going on? You don't sound too good. He's like, I'm not doing good, man. He said, I've been struggling with opioids for 18 years and alcoholism. I've been through 2 marriages. I've lost kids, I've lost jobs. And he said, man, I had to call you and reach out to you. I listened to your podcast, and he goes, and I live in Columbus, Ohio. He said, man, something you said about not giving up hope and believing that you can turn your life around, and how you've changed your life. He said, it's given me the strength to change my life, man. He goes, and I just wanted to tell you, I got 4 days sober after 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I had to call you and personally thank you for your message. He said, if I wouldn't have heard that, I don't think it would have gave me the strength to do this.
Right.
And he hangs up, and I sat in my truck for like 10 minutes and I cried, and I was like, holy shit. Not only did I reach one person, because that's all I really wanted to do was reach one person.
Right.
Not only did I reach one person, but I happened to know him personally.
Mm-hmm.
How many more people could I reach if I just simply share my story of how bad it was and how good it's gotten? And that's what started this podcast journey. Speaking with you gentlemen tonight, this is my 68th podcast in 19 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been interviewed by 3 magazines. I just did
No, wait a second. You did 68? Damn it. See, we
I've
always
done-
joke about the 69 thing, man. We could have been the 69 podcast.
You know what? You know what the ironic thing about that is? I was supposed to do a podcast this morning at 10 o'clock, but the guy called and asked me to reschedule because he had a family emergency come up. You guys would have been 69 tonight. And I was laughing. I said, dude, they're probably going to get a kick out of that shit. And he called me at 10 o'clock this morning and canceled. I was like, so... But
see, that's the thing, Tim. We live up to our name, and I was just listening to episode clips when we put together our episode last week, and hitting the 69 percentile we were at with women at one point and all that shit. It's stupid stuff that pops into our head. But yeah, well, here, worst case scenario, we could have been, right, Mike? That's all that
Right.
matters. Is
that's
we could
it.
have
You
been.
Close
could have
enough.
been. That's it. Yeah. So and what I do now to stay sober and stay in recovery, to be quite honest with you, sharing my story on these podcasts really do help me.
Sure. Right.
It is a therapy for me. I still go to my meetings. I use my meetings on the weekends now, because I found that balance for me helps me stay grounded mentally, spiritually, and physically. So
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I didn't get sober to sit in church basements.
absolutely, no, for real. I came home. I joined the gym. I go to the gym 6 days a week. I was supposed to compete in my first bodybuilding competition in November, but it got pushed back to May. 4 months ago, I competed in a Muscle and Fitness magazine cover competition, and I came in third place out of 10,000.
Holy crap.
So yeah, that's a pretty awesome accomplishment. And you know what? I was kind of bummed. I was like, man, first place was 25 grand. You got the cover of the magazine and like a 2-page spread, and you get all
Yeah,
these
you're one of us.
sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my mom calls me and she's like, Tim, what's wrong? And I said, Mom, I didn't win. She said, are you kidding me right now, son? She's like, you you're a suicide survivor, and
Right.
you were on the verge of dying. When I got to rehab, my kidneys and livers were 4 times what it should have been.
Right, yeah.
My,
2 fucking years ago, you're about dead and wanting to
Yeah.
kill yourself. Right, yeah, and you come in third and it's not good
Right.
enough.
Right, and she's
Yeah.
like, son, she's like, I'm so proud of you. She's like, you need to understand that you won. You're a winner in my eyes. And she hung up the phone, and I'm like, you know what? Perspective.
Yep.
Right.
Perspective. And I was like,
Yep.
I needed that because it changed my perspective big time. I'm like, wow, from where I was, on the verge of having a stroke and my liver and kidneys shutting down.
Yeah.
And
It's just a great example of how quickly we forget.
absolutely, and and that's one thing that has completely changed for me is my perspective and my gratitude.
Yep.
I no longer say I have to get up and go to work. I have to pay my bills. I have to cut the grass. I have to go to the gym. I say I get to go to
I
work.
get to.
I
Yep.
get to pay my
Right.
bills and put food on the table for my family. I get to go to the gym because some people are not physically able. And I'm so grateful to have another day alive, man.
Right.
To just wake up in the morning, and that's how I
Yeah.
start my day. I say 5 things I'm grateful for every morning. That
Right.
helps me tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do it at the end of the day, but absolutely. I mean, you're talking about going to the gym. That is a muscle we have to work because we've got to work it, man. Because we again, we'll forget. We have to force ourselves because it's not our nature. We have to force ourselves to be grateful. We have to force ourselves to put things in perspective. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was always that glass half empty. Like, where's the rest of my shit? Where's the ice cubes?
Yeah.
Why isn't it spilling over? And
Yep.
now I'm so thankful there's something in that cup to quench my thirst. I'm so grateful that I got my kids back. I mean, like, it took 9. I have 3 daughters, 23, 15, and 11, and it took my 23-year-old 9 months to even speak to me, and she lived in my same damn house.
Well,
12
Bill
years.
knows all about that.
Yeah,
12 years for me. 12 years.
Wow. Well,
Yep.
and here I am. I'm coming home after 32 days, and I'm like, why isn't my daughter talking to me? And my wife,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, look at me. I did 32 days. Here's my certificate. And
That's what we do.
And my wife's like, are you kidding me? She's like, Tim,
Right.
you drank her entire life. She's like,
Yeah.
go to meetings, do your steps, go work with your sponsor, go to the gym,
Mhm.
like do everything you're supposed to do, and just give it time. And
Yep.
6 months comes, I'm like, she's still not talking to me. She's like, Tim, just give it time. And on my 9 month exactly, I open up my phone and there's a text message from my daughter. She had moved out now, and she's living with a boyfriend. And the text simply says, Dad, I just want you to know how proud I am of you. Thank you for giving me the time to heal because I know you were healing too. But I want you to know I love you, and I'm so grateful to have my father back. And to be honest with you, that right there was one of the biggest gifts I've ever gotten in my entire life. No amount of money would ever match that. No amount of fame, fortune, nothing. That was
Right.
and it was something that just filled my heart with, man, I'm doing it.
Right.
I'm finally doing it right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we say all the time. It was taught to us. We do good, then we get good. But we got to do the good first.
I always
go
thought,
the other way.
and that's funny because I always thought all that was all bullshit. All,
Of course.
So did we.
all that, all the little, isms that hang on the wall at these meetings.
Yeah, the cliches.
One day
they
at a
were all
time,
bullshit.
keep it simple, stupid, like all this
Right.
shit that you read.
Yep.
I'm like, what the, the first couple months, I'm like, this is stupid shit. Like, what the hell is
Yeah.
all this stuff?
Yeah,
And
bullshit.
then it starts happening in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you realize, oh my God, this is for real.
Yep.
And the more you are aware of how real it is, the more it happens. And the
Yep.
more it just justifies that everything that you're doing now in your life was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's and Mike and I when you talked about the more grateful and all that stuff, and Mike didn't come out and say it, but I've been terrible at that. He's the one that has to tell me, and it was recent. We were doing an episode. I don't know. It was 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. I had it in my head. I'm like, I haven't done anything this summer. I haven't this. I haven't that. And then I'm like, as we were talking, I'm like, you ungrateful fuck. And I'm talking to myself. And then Mike says to me, "Yep." And I'm like, can I say but that's the thing, and with my daughter and stuff like that. So it was 12 years. I was still drinking when her and I got estranged, and it was 2.5 years sober when she actually, or no, a year and a half. I'm sorry,
Right.
but yeah, it was a year and a half sober when we connected again. But so I was just talking to my son-in-law. I was up there last weekend. I have a grandchild now. I have a great relationship with my daughter. I walked her down the aisle with her at her wedding. I have a great relationship with her husband. So my son-in-law and I were sitting there talking while we were up there. I was up there last weekend, and just back and forth about a couple of things and whatever. And I said, "Yeah," I said, "You realize?" I said, "Had I not gotten sober," I said, "we never even would have met." And he's like,
Right.
"Yeah." He goes, "Well, you're probably right." And I'm like, "I'm not probably right."
Yeah.
I'm exactly right. And I appreciate him. And all these people, and I don't have, and Mike and I talk about this, a lot of times. We've got some things, we've gained some things back, and we've gained some cash, we get some jobs and cars or whatever the case is.
Right.
But it's still so difficult sometimes because our minds are still there. Where, like you said, you came in third place out of 10,000, but you didn't win. And I'm here, but I'm not there. But I want this, but I have that.
Right.
And it's a constant struggle. And it happened to me. Shit, when was that, Mike? That I had that when the first time you told me to do a gratitude list. What were we? 2 years sober? I think
Yeah,
something like that.
man. Something like that.
I was going out of my freaking mind, pissed off at everything, this and that. And he tells me, he's
Mm-hmm.
like, do a gratitude list. And I did,
Yep.
and it helped. And I haven't actually taken that pen to paper recently, which I should, but
Mm-hmm.
I try to inventory this stuff and just, I look at these, so people around me, and people have it, so much worse than us, but that's not even the point. It's what I am able to do with my life and be happy with my life. And you talk about the podcast. I don't know how much of our episodes you've listened to, but when we started this, literally, it was just a whim. We just were going to get on here, talk to each other every Friday as friends. Figured, fuck it. If somebody listens, perfect. On top of that, if it helps, like you said, one person,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. So we're now getting feedback. I mean, we're growing, but we're not huge or anything like that. But that's not the point. Some of the feedback that we're getting from people, and one of our really good friends, just recently, 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
Mike.
Yeah.
The reason that he reached out to both of us,
Right.
and we're not going to mention who it is, but he reached out to both of us because he came across our podcast. He knows us. He sees us on Facebook, but Michael posts our episodes on there. That's the reason he reached out to us. He was struggling and reached out for some help.
Yep.
That's
And this
awesome.
is a guy. This is a guy we've known for 8 years now, right? 8, 9
Oh,
years.
longer
whatever
than
it is.
that, man. Yeah. No, he came around about a year after we got sober. It's been about
Did he?
10, 11 years. Yeah. Because I had a
Okay.
Facebook memory, and I told him this the other day. I had a Facebook memory popped up that I led for him 10 years ago.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, but I mean, that's part of the thing, Tim. Everything that you just talked about, and your story is not exactly the same as us. You've done probably all the drugs that Mike did.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't bodybuild, we don't combat fight, we were in the military, but that doesn't matter. The story that you told and that progression and your mindset and where you're at today, and I mean, it just, I'm sitting here back, I'm like, yeah, I get it, I understand. But here's the other thing too, and explain. You're involved in a shit ton of groups too. From what I can tell through
Yes.
your Instagram page and things like that. I want you to explain a little bit about that because hey, let's talk about what you're doing there and those people you're helping. But if there's anything that you want us to link, whether it's a hashtag and at somebody or whatever the deal is, we'll put it in our episode description, and I'll post that on Instagram, and so that'll hit for at least a week after this. Try to get some some of that reach. That's what we're here for. I mean, we want to be able to help as many people as possible and help other people help people, right, Mike?
Mm-hmm. One
So-
drunk helping another.
Absolutely. It's a we program. We help each other. That's how this works.
First
Yeah,
word of the
absolutely.
First word of the first step.
That's
We.
it. That's it. I mean, it is, and it's. I tell you what. We are the most unselfish group of people I've ever met in my life, and coming
Right.
coming from being selfish and only caring about what I wanted and what I needed
Yep.
and what I cared about, to meeting people that actually genuinely care about you.
Mm-hmm.
That took a while to get used to. I'm like, they want something from me, you know.
Hell, I'm still trying to get used to it.
Yeah, they're looking for something. They want something back, but
Yep.
Right.
no, again, that just shows you how much my life has changed. I started doing these podcasts and then started getting all these messages from nonprofits and magazines that wanted to interview me, and a TV show that wanted to do me for a men's mental health summit, which I did 3 weeks ago.
Cool.
I just got back from California 2 weeks ago. I'm partnered with a group of guys called the Overwatch Collective. There are two former Marines. One's now a police officer, and they're both in the Coast Guard Reserve, but one's a police officer now. And they started a 501c3 nonprofit for
Right.
mental health, addiction, and suicide prevention for first responders and veterans. Because, in our line of work, we see the most trauma, more
Right.
than normal.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
And a lot of us are alcoholics and drug addicts because we want to numb the pain and forget about the trauma and act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So they actually asked me to become an ambassador of their 501(c)(3), and they flew me out to California, set me up in a hotel. And 2 weeks ago, I went and I spoke at their event. They had 240 people show up for their fundraiser. We raised $69,530.
Our favorite
Nice.
number.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we were able to get 11 military and first responders into treatment, and spouses, because the spouses also go through trauma.
Absolutely.
So we were able to
Right.
raise that money for them, and they're a great group of guys, and that's something really close to my heart, is helping the veterans and first responders.
Nice.
And also, I work with a company called Rockstar Testimony, and they have a website called Love and Light to the World, and it is a mental health addiction advocacy company. And I actually, through them, I run Thursday nights on Zoom at 7 p.m. Eastern. I run a men's mental health and addiction counseling group, and it is open, free to the public. You simply just go on to loveandlighttotheworld.org and click my name for Thursday and register. And at 7 p.m., I go live, and you can join my group. And you don't have to share if you don't want to. You can just listen. You can ask questions. And if it's something really serious, like you're contemplating taking your own life, at the end of the recording, I get on and I talk to you personally, and I try to get you into a treatment program or talking to somebody that can
Right.
help you through that situation.
Very cool.
It's just been
Yeah,
so
exactly.
awesome. 2 months ago, I went to North Carolina. The month before, I went to Philadelphia to go speak in Kensington. I don't know if you guys know much about Kensington, Philadelphia, but
Mm-mm.
it's the heroin capital of the United States.
Right. Yeah. Actually, my daughter's mom posted a video of that just the other day.
That is real.
Yep.
Dude, I have never seen anything like that in my entire life. It is literally walking zombies. People are
Yeah,
shooting up
zombie
on the
land.
streets.
Yep.
They're
Wow.
smoking crack right in front of the police officers, and the police officers are told not to do anything. The only time a police officer can intervene is if somebody's hurting themselves or somebody else. Other than that,
Right.
they're free to do the drugs right there on the street. They have sex on the street. It is mind blowing to see the addiction and the trauma and the mental health problems that are going on there.
Right.
So I
Right.
went out there to speak. I don't know if anybody heard me, but I went out there and I spoke, and we took food and clothes to the homeless,
Right.
and just tried to get the message out there. We tried to reach one person, and the cool thing is,
Yeah.
the
Plant
guy,
a seed, man.
yeah, the
Right.
guy that runs it, he's been doing it 6 months. He's been able to get 11 people, no, 13 now, 13 people in the treatment centers.
Cool.
And that's just what, dude, I was so lost. I didn't know my purpose in life. And when I first got sober, I did why did I have to go through 27 years? Why? And then I
Right.
realized it didn't happen to me, it happened for me.
Right.
It happened
So-
for me to become this man I am today.
Yeah.
Without that, I wouldn't know what gratitude is. I wouldn't know what it was meant to have a purpose. And I truly believe it is my purpose now to share my story with as many people as possible in hopes that they know that they're not alone, that
Mm-hmm.
there's help out there. They can recover and they can ultimately live the life that their higher power has always had waiting for them.
Nice.
Yeah, and Mike was just we were talking about that with God, who were we talking? Well, a couple of I know between ourselves, but also a couple other people, is the fact that all the and I think Mike put it this exact way: all the shit that we went through, Geos, who we were talking about that
Yeah.
with, we can now use for good, and that goes for any one of us that gets sober because like you said, why did it take you 27 years? Mike was 43, I was 41 when we got respectively when we got sober. So why did it take, us until those ages? But
Right.
we can draw back on so many of these things. And when we talk to people, we can explain one way or the other. I've been there,
Right.
and even if it's again, Mike has done all the drugs known to man. I haven't, but it doesn't matter. We still ended up in the same place, just a
Yep.
slightly different. We drove in different lanes on the way here.
Yep.
So, but yeah, the next thing though, do you have a and I want to kind of twofold here. Do you have a website that has all those things, or where are all those links, or do you want to get those to us? What is the easiest way? Everything you just talked about to put it in one little piece. What's the easiest way to get that to us?
It's on two different websites, so I can send it. It's loveandlighttotheworld.org and the overwatchcollective.com. That's the two
Okay.
nonprofits that I work with, and they have all my information on there. And then, as you know, my main page is Instagram,
Sure.
at Lodgen. That's where I post all my podcasts, my fitness journey, different videos of just how my mindset has changed, different quotes, different things I read. Just trying to be positive and spread the message and let people know that they're not alone. And
Yep.
the pain that they're going through is nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be
Nope.
embarrassed about. They don't have to worry about somebody speaking about them badly or talking about them. I know what they're going through. I've been there,
Yep.
Right.
and
Yep.
and
We
and,
do.
and they're not alone. And I need people to understand that it's okay to share your feelings. That whole era of suck it up, buttercup, man up, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
That it's I don't want to say it's bad, but it is. I mean, it's good at one point when you're trying to grow up and you're playing sports and you get hurt. You're like, suck it up, get back in there. But when it comes time to when a real trauma happens in your life, you need to deal with that shit. You need
Mm-hmm.
to don't let it compound it to something that is so overwhelming that you don't want to deal with any of it.
Right.
Hit it head on, take it out, and go on to the next thing that's going to happen. Because, as we know, life happens on life's terms, and it's going to keep coming. There's always going to be waves. You're going to ride that roller coaster the rest of your life, but how
Yep.
you deal with it what's going to bring what is how tomorrow's going to come.
Yeah. And it's the only and as we're control freaks, it's the only thing we can control is how we react to things.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing too is that it's funny that like you said, life on life terms and all that sort of thing. Life happens, and that's the one thing that I don't know. I guess it's not that I didn't realize it, but I didn't realize that at 5 years sober, or 7 years sober, or 9, or whatever it is, that some shit was going to slap me in the face that I had never dealt with before. And it's mind blowing because both Mike and I, we've been sober for coming up on 12 and a half years, and we're not done. We're not fixed.
Nope.
No.
we're
No.
no, we're not recovered. We always
Right.
say we're still recovering.
Absolutely.
But the thing of it is I think that man, I've got both of us have a whole ton of experience, 12 and a half years of experience to deal with things. But there's some shit out there that we haven't dealt with yet. But here's the deal: somebody else has.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're a phone call away, and I don't know who that person is, but I can probably call one person that can get me in touch with 17 and I can get the
Right.
answer.
Yep.
So next thing too, Tim, if you want, so as a wrap up to this, shoot me a message with those two websites. I'll
Okay.
put those in the episode description, plus they'll go in as we're promoting the episode this week, they'll go in that description, so they'll be on Instagram. Other thing too, and it's your choice, and we've been offering this to a lot of people, it's not going to cost anything. Take a look at our website. It's just simply SoberNotMature.com. Look at the sponsor page. If you want us to to put you on there, we could do that too. Okay.
Hey, man.
So
The
it
more
would be.
people we reach, the better.
Well,
Yep.
and that's my thought, but if somebody doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to force them. But the whole point is our website doesn't get a ton of traffic, but it gets enough. And if people pop in there, you give me you'll see how it's set up. All I need is a picture,
Okay.
and then you can give me whatever write up you want. If I can take the write up that we've been using on the promos this week, and then put those website links. There's an area on our website where you can click through one link, so we can put one in the description, one link you want to be able to click through, however you want it. But you tell me and us how you want it set up, we'll do that. And again, we're not looking to profit off of that. We've got a handful of people up there right now, and it's just a way for us to, again, continue to give back. And we're all in this together, man.
Absolutely.
Spread the word.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing. We help each other, and the more people we can help, the better. You said what? This is your episode 33, right? You know for a fact
Correct.
that you have at least helped 33 people, and I guarantee you it's probably triple that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and it's like I said, this has turned into be like, and Mike and I talked about this. We used to go when I lived in, because I get sober in Cleveland. Mike's still in Cleveland, so I was out there for 3 years and a few months, and we used to go to this Friday night meeting. This is now the equivalent of what our Friday night meeting is. I still get to hang out with my buddy. We get to talk back and forth. Now that we're having guests, we're meeting all these other cool people, which are turning into new connections. It's great. I mean, we know for a fact all this stuff's helping us. And like you said, if it even helps one person, I mean, it's all worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll shoot you. I got a couple good guys you should probably have on that will help you out and give you some really good perspectives.
Nice. That's cool.
A couple guys that I speak with, and they've been through war just like we have, and it'd be good to have their message out there as well. And again, it will connect you with some more people.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, and let them know, give us or give them their email or give them our email address. See, I can speak,
Right.
But then just have them give, like, same thing I asked you, give us a little bit of the background, what they want to talk about, and we're more than happy to look at it. Now, we don't know about November, December, but we'll figure it out. We're a little bit open, but we're looking at, just maybe not having guests through that time frame, but one way or the other, the sooner the better. We'll take a look at them and work it out. We want to keep doing this with guests. We're not going to get away from it. So what do you want to wrap up with? I mean, we're at an hour right now. We want to keep mindful of that a little bit. But, Tim, what else? I mean, what else do you want to share with us as a wrap up? Anything more you want to share, tell us, wrap up, anything?
And the biggest thing I want to say to people is don't lose hope. I've lost hope, and it almost cost me my life. And please don't think you're alone. The pain that you're going through is not yours and yours alone. I understand. We understand what you've gone through. Please reach out to somebody if you or your loved one needs the help that they need to save their life, because the help is out there. Don't be ashamed. Don't be Don't be upset. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel embarrassed. Those are some things that kept me for a long time getting the help I needed, because I didn't want anybody to know. Little did I know, I was the only one that didn't know about it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I believe that's called ego.
I'm glad you said that, because mine has diminished severely.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not going to lie.
Mine's
I
controlled
still have an ego. But the things that I do are not ego fed. They're
right.
It feeds my heart. It feeds my soul. It's a different fulfillment, and it's just incredible. It's such a blessing to have this life. When my friend told me I would get back times 10, he lied. I called him. I said, dude, I've gotten back 100 times, and shit just keeps coming my way. I just don't even understand it. And he said, Tim, that's how it works. He said,
it is.
You give out good and you get it back times 10. And I said, I always thought that was bullshit. He said, no, man. He said, that's how this works. So it's incredible.
Exactly. Doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense to us, man. We do things for other people and our lives get better. How the fuck does that work?
Hey, imagine that.
Well, Tim, obviously we appreciate it. This has been it's been a great conversation, and Have you ever listened to an ending of our podcast?
I
yet, or
haven't
no?
listened to you, and I've listened to probably about
Okay.
12 of your clips because that's what drew me into you guys, because you guys were funny as
Right.
shit, and you were saying shit. I was like, oh, man, I relate to these guys. Okay, this is cool.
No, that's cool. The only reason I'm saying it, Mike's about to get a little mouthy, and we're just going to do the separation because we just had all that stuff that was just said that Tim said. Just don't hold Tim accountable for what Mike's about to say, because he gets
Right.
a little mouthy at the end as part of our fun. But he always wraps up the podcast. But my question to Mike always is, Mike, anything else on your mind tonight?
Not a goddamn thing.
All right. Well, we will let Tim. We're going to let Mike wrap up, and then you get to hear this ending that we do. So,
And I got an extra special one this week, too. So, thanks to Kathy. So, thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Thank you, Tim, for coming on and sharing your story of hope with us. We really appreciate that. And as always, be kind to each other. Be good to each other. Do something nice for somebody else this week. And as always, please, and here's the extra special ones direct from Kathy. Please fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off until you get to a gate with a sign saying, you can't fuck off past here. Climb over the gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.
Yeah, and Tim, Kathy's our sister. She sent us that meme the other day. Mike usually just does a quick fuck off, but then our sister sent that to us. So our family's as sick and twisted as us, which is
Yes, they are.
which is awesome.
That's great.
But seriously, Tim, thank you very, very much. Mike, as always, I love you, brother. We'll talk
Love
soon.
you too,
and,
man.
Yeah, thank you, and good night, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.